welcome, Dreamer. Thank you so much for being on. Please tell me your dream. I'm so excited to have you here. Dreamer, will you tell us just a word or two about yourself?
Yes, I'll be glad to. I'm enjoying my family, especially my granddaughters, now that I'm retired from being in education for 36 years.
Congratulations on that wonderful career. Let's just get right to it. Dreamer, please tell me your dream.
I'm happy to. I'm in the South Magnolia house with Daddy, and he's mowing the yard. There's a problem, but I'm not sure what it is. Now I'm the principal of a high school, and I'm taking up money in bags, maybe for lunch money, at the front office. I'm supposed to deposit it. We're beginning the day when Bob comes in. He says he'll drive me to deposit it. He looks the same as when he was a teenager. We decided we're engaged, and he wants to take me to his home to see it. We get in his old black truck. I notice the seat is far from the steering wheel, and he has arranged about 5 black pillows behind his back so that he can reach the pedals. During this short time, memories of his family and our past flood me. As I'm pondering why he doesn't just move the seat forward, I decide it's probably just an old truck and the seat doesn't move. I'm comfortable putting up with his ratty stuff because I'm confident all will be well. He seems to be confident, but beginning his career, and I'm sure that we'll have a good life and he'll be a good provider and caretaker while I continue to work. Then a dark gray donkey climbs out from under the dashboard. I'm really puzzled, and I look at him and he tells me it's his pet and it lives at his house. Well, it's really crowded in the front seat of the truck and it's awkward, but the donkey is gentle and he faces me, looking me in the eye. I notice one eye is glazed and it seems like he might be blind in that eye. When I look closer, he has a little turtle in his eye.
Is that the end?
That's the end.
Oh, wow. Okay. So, what was the feeling tone of that whole dream?
Well, it was reminiscent of a pleasant surprise. He
Hmm.
was my high school boyfriend, and I hadn't seen him since high school.
Uh-huh. And how long ago did you have this dream?
It was quite a while ago. It was July the 7th, 2018. So about five
Okay.
years ago.
Okay. I've touched on this before, but old dreams can still absolutely speak to us today, especially when we had the dream, we were still puzzling out what the dream might have meant. And we can still go back to that dream and go back to that dream and go back to that dream and see what information it may have now. So I think working on a dream that you had in 2018 can still be extremely fruitful. So let me ask this, dreamer. What was I guess, what was the most, the part of the dream that had the most energy in it, or maybe had the most surprise in it?
I think just seeing him because, I hadn't seen him since high school.
Mhm.
Um, and it felt very comfortable to be with him again.
So there was a little preview dream before we got to the part about Bob. Will you tell that dream, that little part first? Will you read that again?
Yes. I'm in the South Magnolia house with Daddy, and he's mowing the yard. There's a problem, but I'm not sure what it is.
Okay. So here's what I'm going to uh, suggest. I'm going to suggest that we do a little work around Daddy and we do a little work around Bob, and then we think about donkeys and turtles.
Sounds good.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to switch over so we can do a little work right here. Dreamer, can you tell us some things about Daddy?
He was very strong emotionally. He was surrounded by women. When he was 5, his daddy died. So his mother was a widow. My mother's mother was a widow. And then I have 2 siblings who were both female.
So he had a widowed mother. And who was the other widow?
My mother's mother. Both
Oh, okay.
grandmothers were widows.
Okay. And then you had sisters.
I have 2 sisters.
Uh-huh. And you and your mom.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, that's a lot of women to be surrounded.
It was a lot for him. He countered that by being a Boy Scout leader
Ah,
and really looked forward to their camp outs and the summer camp,
mm-hmm,
which was a week, I think,
mm-hmm,
and their weekly meetings.
mm-hmm.
And he was very active civically. He he was a very friendly, humorous man. He worked at the post office. He was the mailman supervisor, and so he got to see a lot of people coming and going, and so he knew tons of people. And I think he was well liked and well respected.
So he knew lots of people, well liked and respected. Now, those are all such positive aspects. Was there any shadow aspects here?
He had a terrible temper that really I didn't want to have any part of.
Mm-hmm.
And so I he was just verbal with it, but it scared me as a child.
Okay.
And I don't remember him really addressing me with anger, but he would get angry about other things. And I guess he would express it to my mother.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, I was the youngest child, and so he would reprimand my oldest sister a lot.
Okay. But more often than not, it wasn't toward you.
I don't I don't ever remember it being toward me.
Okay. Okay. All right. Let's hang on to Daddy for a minute because I think it's so important that that little tiny piece of dream came first.
Yes.
I think that's significant. I think all parts of dreams are significant, but I think it was almost like part one was the setup for part two, if we want to think about it that way. And
Yes.
also, I want to touch on the idea of when men show up in women's dreams, no matter who they are part of the masculine aspect of a woman's own personality. And there's a name for that. And Dreamer, you and I have worked together before, so you know that the name of that, and that name is the animus. And often our fathers in our waking life are the beginning, the little seed around which our animus gets built. And that's why I think, even though he was only there just for a few minutes in the dream, I think it's real important that we note that um, this is an animus figure, meaning the masculine aspect in a woman's personality. And what I mean by that is the part of us that knows how to get things done in the world, that knows how to think logically and rationally, that knows how to set goals for ourselves and to come up with a plan to achieve the goal and to have the energy to execute that plan. Also, the ability to hold boundaries. All of that belongs on the masculine side. Okay, now we've talked about him. Well, one thing we need to note though was at the beginning of the dream, he's mowing the grass and something's wrong, right?
Yes,
Is that correct? I mean,
that's correct.
okay, let's make a note of that. All right, mowing the grass, something's wrong. Did you have a sense that something was wrong with the lawnmower or was it
It
something
did.
else?
Um, it seemed to be around the mowing of the yard. I couldn't tell, I don't remember if it was the lawnmower or
Mhm.
maybe a limb in the grass. I don't know.
Okay, so there was something that was preventing or slowing down or stopping this. Is that what I'm
That's
hearing?
correct. Right.
Okay. Okay. Now, and so it's interesting to think about, did your dad, was that one of his tasks? Is mowing the grass
He
when you
did mow. He when he was off and at home, he liked to do outside things
hmm
around the house, that men like to do.
And what do
He,
you think mowing the grass is all about? What made your dream choose that particular activity?
I know, isn't that interesting?
Uh-huh.
Well, he did do that. He, he didn't love the yard, but he did mow it.
hmm
He
hmm
wasn't a gardener. Um, I just don't know why that popped up
Okay.
in my unconscious.
Okay. Would it be fair to say, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but this was just one of his tasks?
Yes, yeah, since he didn't really enjoy that particularly, there
Uh-huh.
were other things
hmm
he liked more.
Okay. So so we can sort of think of it as a mundane task, just like all the mundane tasks we have to do. Something
Right.
like that. Does that
Yes, I think that's right.
okay. Okay. So there was something stopping that. Something stopping doing a regular task. So just let's hang on to Daddy um for a minute.
Okay.
Okay. Now let's go to Bob,
Okay.
if that's okay with you.
That's just fine with me.
Okay. All right. Tell us about Bob.
He played the trombone in our band, in our high school band. He later became a youth minister.
Okay. And he was your high school boyfriend?
He was,
All right, we got to say that.
right?
Okay.
He was
And
in he was in the Vietnam War and he was awarded 2 Bronze Stars.
oh wow.
And I'm ashamed to say I did not see any of those characteristics as a teenager.
Oh wow. Okay. What Here's what I love to ask about high school sweethearts, and that is what was attractive about him then? What made him so cute that he was your high school sweetheart?
Um, he was approachable.
Okay.
He was obviously very kind, and he was entertaining. in a quiet way. And he seemed to accept me without any criticism.
That's big.
I think it is.
Yeah, that's very big. What was it now? You didn't see him being a war hero of any type in his youth?
I just didn't anticipate that at all.
Do you know what he did to earn those Bronze Stars?
I don't. He passed away at about at a young age, about 57 or so.
Uh-huh.
And I saw that in his obituary.
Oh, wow.
But I've never run into anybody that I thought would know what he did.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't
Yeah.
know. I just didn't, I've not seen his friends
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
then. And I actually explored trying to find what he had done, but I was unsuccessful.
Mm-hmm. Gosh, I wonder what made your dream bring him back.
You know, that was my first question with this. How
Mm-hmm.
did he pop up in my unconscious? I haven't thought about him since a mutual acquaintance who I had not known in high school
Mm-hmm.
mentioned that he had died.
Uh,
And that's when we realized we both knew the same person.
oh, wow. Yeah.
And so that was sad.
Yeah.
I think he had a really good life. I think he was happy with his life.
Okay. So here he is again, another animus aspect, another masculine aspect. Now I'm seeing uh, something that's interesting here, um, and that is a little bit of overlap. You know, your dad was well liked and and strong emotionally. This man is approachable, kind, and entertaining. I think it's so interesting that your dad had all these women that he lived with, and he balanced that with being a Boy Scout leader. And so there was this balance of the masculine and the feminine in his life. And this young man, um, he was approachable and kind, which is very relational, but he was a war hero, which is very masculine. In other words, both men seem to have a balance to them, or am I wrong?
No, I think you're absolutely right.
Okay. Now, in the dream, it's driving a truck. So was this his truck? Do you recall? Or it's just,
It was not. He did not have a truck.
oh,
He
wow. Okay.
he drove the family car. Actually, he and his brother shared the car, and we double dated a lot.
How fun.
It was a lot of fun.
The problem with this truck though was it seemed to be old. Well,
It was.
let's talk about the truck. So he's driving a truck, but there's something up with the truck. Describe the truck again to us if you don't mind.
We get in his old black truck. I
So it's
noticed
old and black.
uh,
Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry,
it
go ahead.
felt very open, but I can't place why
Okay.
it's open. I noticed the seat is far back from the steering wheel, and he has arranged about 5 black pillows behind his back so he can reach the pedals. Now, he was very tall. He could have reached the pedals in real life.
That distance between the steering wheel and the seat really intrigues me for this reason. It feels like the ability to steer is out of reach somehow. The ability to control the vehicle is out of reach or has to be um, um, somehow fixed in such a way that we can reach the steering wheel to steer something, to control it, to control the drive. And the color black in both the black pillows, the black truck. Any ideas about that, Dreamer?
Well, sometimes it emotes a dark feeling
Uh-huh.
or not, not positive emotions, I guess.
Okay. Okay. And so the question is then goes back to, do you feel, is there something in you that feels like it's out of reach or that's a strain to reach that needs an accommodation, something out of control, out of the reach of my control, something along those lines? Do you have any kind of sense of that?
Well, I struggled to become educated. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
I left college after 2 years. And so I've always felt like I was playing catch up.
Mm-hmm.
And that was my decision to leave.
Mm-hmm.
But I've always felt like it was probably the wrong decision. And so
Mm-hmm.
um, I had to work really hard. I grew up in that time frame when women could be secretaries, nurses, or teachers. And I really didn't want to be any of those things, although I
Right.
ended up in education.
Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Um,
Um,
and so I really think that's it. I never am confident that my animus is strong and going to do what I need it to do. Although when it's time to go back to school, I figured out how to do that.
and that might have something to do with the accommodation of the pillows. In other words, I'll do what I need to do to reach this so I can steer it.
That's interesting. It could be
Yeah. And
because I did, you know,
mm-hmm,
get a specialist degree,
mm-hmm.
and I had 43 hours in addition to that, but they were basically in reading and psychology, and I never wrote a thesis. So
Ah,
I didn't end up with a PhD or two specialist degrees,
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
but I was close.
Yeah. And yet you had a 37-year career.
I did, which was totally unexpected. That was never in my plan.
Uh-huh.
I was in a survey as a high school student, and they followed me throughout my life. And at my 50th class reunion, they gave us our original responses to their survey questions.
Oh, wow.
It was fascinating for me. I had said I wanted to be a social worker,
Oh, wow.
and my career was predominantly, wasn't exclusively, but predominantly um, circled around special education.
Man,
And
you came close.
I did. And one of my sisters does have a degree in social work. So interesting.
Very interesting. So I think also uh, a couple of things came to mind real quick, and that was um, the fact that Bob was very accepting without criticism. And I often think, and I often say, that we dream about the past, but it has to be in service to the present and going into the future. And I wonder if Bob, in his appearance in this dream, and us talking about it now, even though it's some years later after having the dream, is a reminder around accepting oneself, around accepting yourself, coming to a self acceptance or something like that.
That makes a lot of sense.
So I just think that's terribly important. And also to think about vehicles, however they show up. A truck, a car, is number one, something to get us from one place to another. But especially when it's something like this, a truck or an automobile, as opposed to a train or a plane or a bus, is something that we drive. And it has to do with, if you will, drive. And that is that animus force, that masculine force of getting stuff done in the world. And so in the first part of the dream, there was something wrong about getting the lawn mowed. In this dream, there's something wrong with the truck and being able to drive the truck. And so I'll invite you to continue to think about where that might be showing up, where that might have showed up in I'm sorry, in 2018, and where that might be showing up now is any kind of hitch in the giddy up of your drive, or where your drive has to be accommodated, compensated, something like that. I'm throwing out there for our consideration. Okay, now we veer off into donkeys and turtles. So tell me about donkeys.
Well, they can be stubborn. And they're considered very tough work animals. Pack animals predominantly is what comes to my mind. They carry a load.
They are pack animals. Any other thoughts around donkeys from, I don't know?
They can be cute and adorable and very loyal to their caretaker. And I actually think if you're a donkey lover, they're good pets.
Yeah. So I again the question comes up, what would make this donkey be part of the truck, come out from under the dashboard of the truck? What is this donkey bringing right now?
Well, they would have to have a lot of energy to, if they're used as pack animals.
Uh-huh.
I can remember first reading about them as a child in social studies
Uh-huh.
and seeing pictures of them
Mm-hmm.
climbing mountains with packs on that were balanced on each side of the saddle.
Yeah. I
So,
can I can remember seeing them in films or in documentaries and wondering how that creature, which is not that, I mean, they're not that big,
no, they're not.
could possibly carry all the stuff that's piled on them, but they did, you know.
Yes, they
So,
do.
so here's a question again, and that is, what part of you is that? Have you ever felt any of that?
I have at times. When I was 40, I was divorced and had three teenagers and
Uh-huh.
an absent father for them. So yeah, that was a burden. I'm happy to report they're all doing reasonably well.
Yeah. You know, I think maybe most parents, no matter what the circumstance, and certainly yours was a difficult circumstance, but I think parents of children at certain ages, every age maybe, uh, we can feel like overloaded donkeys.
Well, they were college and high school age,
Uh-huh.
and
Hmm.
I had expectations that,
Hmm.
college would be fun. And it turned out to be work for them too.
Yeah. So, So it might be pointing to, again, going back to our drive, to the masculine aspect, to the ability to carry the load. I'm thinking we're thinking about a animus dream here a little bit.
It is, isn't it?
I, that's my take on it, Dreamer. Yeah, you have the right to disagree with any of this.
No, I'd never really thought about the donkey as carrying the load,
Mm-hmm.
of the teenagers and helping them get through college. But
Mm-hmm.
I think that's probably spot on, honestly.
And do you have a sense of carrying any kind of load now, or when you had the dream in 2018, did you have any sense of that?
I did. One of my children was having um, really serious health issues during that time.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so that's possibly reflected right there.
Yeah, yeah. All right. So then this interesting thing happened. You noticed the donkey's eye, right?
Right.
Um, so let's just think about that for a second. The eye. Any thoughts about that? Just the concept of an eye or the eyes.
Well, it gives you the ability to really grasp the view, I guess, of the landscape or the surroundings or the family. I've always wondered if, when people lose their eyesight, how they manage to transition
Mm-hmm.
to blindness in the worst case.
And if I may, also, whenever there's the word I, there's the possibility of the play on words about I,
Yes.
which is ego.
Ah,
So I think there's a relationship between our waking life ego and the ability to grasp the view, the landscape, the family, the ability to see. I think there's um, that dreams, in fact, come to bring information and the ability to see things like these these things you've identified in consciousness. And so in dreams, sometimes a reference to the I, however it comes up, can be about the ego or waking consciousness having um, having more information, having something come into a wider consciousness, if you will. Does that sound reasonable?
it really does, particularly in light of the two men and the animus that they represent. I frequently feel that my male, my animus is not generating enough energy to do what I need to do. But
Mm-hmm. Which is this right, which is
uh-huh.
the donkey energy right there.
But
Mm-hmm.
everybody's graduated from college. They're all fine. My granddaughters are, in their early professional life.
Mm-hmm.
One is a teacher and about to work on her master's, and the other one is within 3 months of being a graduated architect. So they're fine too.
Oh, that's marvelous. Oh, congratulations to them.
We are so excited. I spoke to the younger one earlier today, and we
Mm-hmm.
had fun just thinking about being through.
Oh man. And a new thing beginning. That's
Yes,
very
a
exciting.
new beginning for both of them.
Um, so as I recall, you wondered in the dream whether there was something wrong with the donkey's eyesight.
Right.
And then it's a turtle.
It's a turtle when I look closely. And
So,
turtles are very slow, is what I think.
okay, I'm going to write down turtle here. And they are slow.
They often win the race by being slow and steady.
Slow and steady wins the race. That's an interesting idea around all of this animus talk that we've had, all of this masculine drive that we've been talking about. I wonder if that's the final message of the dream is be that.
Be slow and steady.
Yeah, and yet still forward moving,
Yes,
not stopped, moving, but it doesn't have to be fast. It doesn't have to have a lot of drive energy in it. It can be slow and steady. I wonder if that's just the message of the dream and was the message of the dream in 2018 when you had it.
I think so because the health issues were um, very important and very slow
Mm-hmm.
to resolve, but the treatment has been effective.
Okay. Okay. So is there anything else that occurs to you as we've been going through this dreamer that the dream might be commenting on? Because as we know, dreams might be coming on different areas of life all, at the same time. Do you think we got somewhere is what I'm
I think we got it. I hadn't really, I was thinking that the animus was very young and ineffective in the truck.
Mhm.
But I see that is not necessarily correct now. I think this is helpful.
Well, I go back to the fact that the guy's a war hero
Exactly.
and that you didn't know he was a war hero. I mean, you didn't know he had the capacity for being a war hero.
Right.
So if we're thinking about that in terms of your own animus, have you underestimated your own animus?
I think I have.
Uh, you know, you get a little donkey and you get a little turtle, and you've got tough, slow and steady, but they do it. They win the race. They carry the load to the top of the mountain.
They do.
So maybe it's that.
I think it might be.
Okay.
That's a wonderful discovery.
Mhm. I really invite you, dreamer, to continue to think about it. Like we said at the beginning, these dreams that we had a long time ago can keep talking to us. And so the idea that as things show up now in life, whatever they may be, to stick with donkey turtle um, energy, so to speak, um, and that other piece where Bob was so accepting, right? And that accept yourself aspect. And I think it's lovely, all of these little pieces that
Well, I certainly would never have put all these together without your help.
well, let's talk about how you're going to honor this work today
Well,
because
it
uh,
is a very exciting new interpretation for me. Um,
and how will you honor this today? Is there something you can think of where you would honor this dream?
well, that's something I really hadn't, in my preparation, I hadn't really thought about that. I think that um, one of the benefits of doing this work today has been uh, seeing that I really do need to accept myself and relax
Mm-hmm.
with my accomplishments and not feel like I'm still struggling.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not a really factual thing, but I will say shortly after this dream, well, after COVID, but before COVID, I had planned to go to Scotland.
Uh-huh.
Of course, it was postponed, and the beginning of it started around 2018, and
Uh-huh.
I did go,
Yeah.
and and that was not anything I ever expected.
Uh-huh.
It wasn't on my bucket list. I had no desire to travel outside of the United States,
Mm-hmm.
and it just was a gift that I was able to give myself. And then during COVID, there was a trip planned to uh, the Holy Land.
Mm-hmm.
Again, not any place I ever thought I would be going. But because it was postponed and I had a friend going, I thought, that might be something I want to do. And I
Uh-huh.
did. And I am so eternally grateful that I went in 2022 before the war.
Oh, wow, that's right. Yeah.
And so I got to see things that it was actually an Old Testament tour.
Oh, how wonderful.
And so it was a lot of my childhood Bible stories come to
Yeah.
life.
Oh, wow.
And so that was two, you know,
Mm-hmm.
really unexpected pleasures that I'm very grateful that I was able to take advantage of. And if I hadn't worked for 36 years,
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't have been able to do that.
That's interesting that the planning of that initial trip was kind of in 2018,
Right.
and then came up. Obstacles arose, right? And
Yes, like in the mowing of the lawn.
like in the mowing of the lawn or the not being able to reach the steering wheel, and to persevere, to continue.
And
And
yes,
the plans came into being,
they
and
did.
you got to go.
I
So
did.
that is just the coolest. So I have a suggestion for honoring the dream.
Okay.
Um, and here's my suggestion.
I'm going to
If
write it
you
down.
if you can locate for yourself um a little donkey,
Oh,
and I'll bet you can find a plush donkey somewhere, um, either on the internet or in a store somewhere. A little donkey and a little turtle. Get yourself a toy version of a donkey and a turtle, plush or little miniature something something, and just keep them nearby.
I
Just
love that idea.
just keep those little fellas nearby to continue to remind you of the work that we did here today.
I
Does that
think
sound?
it's exciting to me. I think I can do that.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, when I went to Puerto Rico many decades ago, they had tiny little turtles. No, they were frogs, not a turtle.
Uh-huh.
I think about it, but
So,
I'm going to look for that. That's a
yeah,
good idea.
yeah. I really suggest to people that they get some kind of representation of something in their dream, especially if it's meaningful to them, to keep the meaning of the dream fresh and nearby.
That will be
Um,
fun to seek those two things.
and to look for them,
Yes.
and so the other thing that I sometimes suggest people to do is to create something that honors the dream. So if you had the desire and wherewithal to make a donkey or to make a turtle, maybe out of clay, or um, or to paint one, or to somehow, make one like that. That is often a good thing to do to honor our dreams, is to create something in response to the dream. So I like to suggest that to folks.
Sounds
Um,
like a great idea too.
how do you feel we did? Do you think we got somewhere?
I definitely do. I'm so satisfied and happy with this. So thank you.
You're so very welcome. I'm delighted.
Well, this was wonderful.